So I am working on a new design here for a knit cowl, and I wanted to show you how to do this really fun, really cute stitch pattern here that I think is just absolutely stunning and a great way to use pops of color without necessarily having to do really intricate color work. So what I started with here is just a black solid base. So this works very well if you have a solid color and then you have pops of color, like an advent kit that's different colors, just something fun that you can add in here. You can also use scraps of yarn. So if you have a scrap bin that you want to kind of use up some of your scraps, this would be another great way to do that as well. So I have my colorway black hole and I have it in my votive DK base. And then I have my gummy worm mini kit that I dyed. All these beautiful, stunning colors. I'll insert a picture here in the corner so you can see what that looks like. And I'm adding those pops of color in from my gummy worm mini kit into this cowl using the stitch pattern. So to start this stitch pattern, I'm going to knit 5 rows plain. So you just knit, knit, knit. And if you're working in the round, that's going to be knit every row. If you're working a purl, like a flat piece, you're going to have to knit, purl, and then knit. But here I'm working in the round, which makes it a lot easier, I think, with a stitch pattern. But of course, you can do it flat as well. But in this demonstration, I'll just be doing it in the round. So if you're knitting flat, you'll have to adapt the stitch pattern to be knit flat. All right, so let's go ahead and start. I'm gonna take my little point protectors off here. Aren't these just the cutest? They're Christmas tree cakes. And I love Christmas tree cakes so much. And I saw these and I was like, I had to get them. I do stock them in my shop if you want to grab you some too, if you are very much obsessed with Christmas tree cakes like I am. All right, so I've got my black here. And I began the row earlier by just knitting 2 stitches. And I'll get into the pattern repeat. I'll make it very clear what the pattern repeat is. So I went ahead and I knit 5 rows. So I've got 5 rows from my last time that I worked the stitch pattern. So I've got 5 rows here. Here's the beginning of my round with my stitch marker, and I've knit 2. So now what I'm going to do is take my new pop of color and just drop that down there to make my life easier. You know what? I'm not going to do that actually, because I want it on the right side. And then I'm going to take this color and I'm going to put it, the end of it going in the back, and I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to move the yarn in front. And I'm just going to let it fall to the back there, just like that. So I've got the yarn coming from the back to the front and off to the side, so it's out of my way. Now I'm going to pick up my black hole colorway, my solid, and I'm going to knit 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once I knit 5, then I'm going to take this color and I'm going to move it back. So I'm just going to drape it back just like that, and I'm going to let it go. And then I'm going to knit 2. Then I'm going to take this color again, making sure to pick up the active yarn, not the tail. And I'm going to move it to the front. And then I'm going to knit 5. Now I'm going to take this yarn once again and move it to the back. So that is the repeat. Our repeat is going to be from the start of knit 2, move the yarn to the front, knit 5, move the yarn to the back. And we're basically just alternating where that yarn is resting. Now, the key to this is that you don't want this to be super tight. So if I were to pull this like this, you see how that's going to cinch up my work? I don't want that. So what I do is I just stretch out my stitches here as I'm working. So let's do that again. So my yarn is now in the back. The active end of the yarn is facing the back. I'm going to knit 2. I'm going to pull that yarn to the front, and then I'm going to knit 5. I stretch my yarn out, or stretch my fabric out, bring this to the back again. So basically I'm wrapping those stitches, but I'm not, right? I'm just moving the yarn behind 2 stitches, moving the yarn in front 5 stitches. Pretty straightforward, right? So now I've got it again. I need to move it to the front. Stretch that out, move it to the back, and then knit 2. Oh wait, I didn't pull that stitch all the way off. I'm horrible at doing that. All right, so now I've knit my 2. I'm going to pull it back to the front and then work 5. Now that I've worked my 5, I'm going to stretch that out a little bit and then move it to the back. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way around till I get to the end of the row. And I'll meet you back there. All right, so I've made it all the way around to the very beginning, and you can see kind of what I've got here. So you see how it's very loose? Like it's not tied at all. I can stretch the fabric and there's no bunching anywhere, and that's what you're looking for. So when you get around, just kind of make sure, I know it's hard when you've got them on a circular needle, but as long as it's loose enough to where there's no visible bunching in the fabric, you'll be just fine. So you can see here, as I go around, I'm stretching and I can see that there's no really tight spots. So that's what you want to do. My goodness, I had Jersey Mike's for lunch and I'm just like hiccup burping just constantly. So excuse me if you hear me struggling. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat that row 3 more times. So I'm going to have a total of 4 of these rows where I've got the strands running between the stitches. So I'm going to knit 2, bring the yarn to the front, knit 5, bring the yarn to the back, knit 2, bring the yarn to the front, knit 5, bring the yarn to the back. And I'm going to do that 3 more times. So once I'm done with that, I'll meet you back here and show you what to do next. All right, I've got 4 rows done. This little stitch pattern here. And let me show you something real quick. I made these little chocolates. Look, hold on. They're little teddy bears. I made those. Aren't those just adorable? So they're 1 bag of the Ghirardelli milk chocolate chips, like the little baking chips or whatever, and then a half of one of the 16-ounce jars of creamy peanut butter. And you just melt all that together in a double boiler. And then I just put these in a silicone mold and put them in the freezer for a little bit until they harden up. And then you take them out and it's, oh my God, they're so good. Like little peanut butter cups, but not at the same time. And they're teddy bears. You can't lose with that. All right. So, oh my goodness, hold on, let me eat this so I'm not chewing all in your ear. Hold on. My word, that's so good. Okay. So now that we've got all that situated, what we're going to do is we're going to knit 4, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then on this one, I'm going to bring my needle in front and I'm going to scoop underneath all 4 of those strands. So see how I'm underneath? I can move them around. I'm going to knit into the next stitch and then I'm going to pull the yarn down, come up. I'm going to knit again into that same stitch, slide it off the needle, and then I'm going to take this stitch that's before the one I just worked and slip it over. Then I'm going to knit 2. And look at there. It's going to look funky for a minute until we get through. All right. Do it again. Knit 4. Scoop down underneath all those strands. See, I'm not grabbing any stitches under here or anything. I've just got those strands. I'm going to knit, and then I'm going to pull it under. So where I wrap it around those strands, I'm going to knit, drop it off, and then slide that stitch over. Just like that. And then knit 2. I'm going to do it one more time for the people in the back. Knit 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to slide my needle underneath every one of those. Make sure I don't have any stitches stuck in there. Just the strands. I'm going to knit into the next stitch, pull the yarn down, and then I'm going to knit into that same stitch again. And then I'm going to slide that stitch over. So basically what we're doing, see, look how cute. It works out. It looks wonky when you're right up on it like that, but as soon as you move away from it, it evens out. So basically what we're doing is we're knitting 4, and then we're knitting 2 stitches into 1, but we're using one of the stitches to wrap around those. Oh my goodness, Jersey Mike's. We're using one of those to wrap those strands. Okay, so I'm going to knit 2 to finish that off. And then I'm going to knit 4. Slide under. Knit into that stitch, pull that loop down. Knit into that stitch again. And then slip that stitch that we first knit. And there we go. That's the repeat. And then once you kind of get the hang of it, you'll just start zooming. It'll get easier and easier. Look at there. See how wonky it looks? You get so mad and you're like, I did it wrong. But then when you knit a couple more and then you knit your 2 here, or your 4 here, sorry. And then you go back to it, it evens out. I think I'm going to treat myself to a chocolate. I think I did good teaching you guys how to do that. So if you want to learn how to make this, or if you, my Lord, if you want to make this cowl, I will have the pattern linked in the description below. I'll likely have it finished and published by the time I release this video. You can purchase the pattern if you like those, you know, like having pre-made things that you can just make. Or if you're adventurous enough, then you can pretty much figure out how to make this cowl by yourself. It's a multiple of 7 stitches. Just go from there. All right, guys, I hope you like this stitch pattern. If you make the cowl, oh my goodness, please show me. I want to see this with like a white background and then maybe like fun pops of color. Or just, gosh, I don't know. Maybe you could do a variegated background with just a solid pop on these. I don't know. Surprise me. Show me what you make. All right. Till next time. Bye.